Hi there. Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Karen Stevens, and today we will be interviewing one of South Florida's most successful actresses. Before I tell you who she is, let me introduce our panel. Sherry Upman is a producer and director who started out as a child actress and tap dancer. Bill Hirschman is an arts journalist and a founder of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. Andy Rogo is the artistic director for Island City Stage, and you can sometimes catch him on stage or directing at other theaters as well. Our guest today has 20 years of experience working in South Florida with credentials that stretch to the moon and back. She is a 4-time Carbonell winner and multiple nominee. She is also a recipient of the Randolph Frank Prize and Silver Palm Award. We'd like to welcome Elizabeth Dimon. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
We are really happy to have you here today.
It's wonderful to be among friends.
Good, good. Beth is one of our leading South Florida actresses, and it's a real honor to have her here. She's also a really good friend of mine and ours. We love her very much.
Thank you.
So tell us how you came to South Florida and broke into the local scene.
Oh, wow. And you probably were around at that same time. I came here in the early 90s. I had come to Florida. My family, my mother had passed, and I came down to be near my dad, and then he subsequently passed, and I thought, well, I'd rather be in Florida working than trying to be in New York and try to work. So I stayed here. I've been here more than 20 years. It's probably more like 30. Yeah, a long time. Yeah, and my first show was with Florida Stage, but it was called Theater Club of the Palm Beaches back then. And my first show was there. And then pretty soon after, Karen and I worked together in Mama Drama. So that was a while ago. Right?
We were chicklets.
We were chicklets, yeah. We were baby chicklets.
We were baby
but Karen's
chicklets.
much younger than me.
Well, not that much. So once you started working steadily in South Florida, what was that like? What were the dynamics like at that time with the different theaters and with the audition process and with the hiring process and all that stuff?
Okay, I think when I first came here, I did the FIPTA audition, the Florida Professional Theater Association audition, and that was wonderful for a newcomer because you got to go and present yourself to 20 theaters, 25 theaters, and all of a sudden they knew who you were, as opposed to going to each theater independently and auditioning for them. So that was a great thing. And then as really in any work, but with any theater, once you get established, then the roles become a little bit more easily gotten.
You get the phone call.
Yeah, you get the phone call, which is a real joy as opposed to having to go and audition. But I'm always happy to, prove myself anytime.
So Beth, go back to before you got here and tell us a little about your training and how you got involved.
Okay, I started kind of late in life. I got married really young, and then after I divorced, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I hadn't gone to college yet. So I was raised in Ohio, but had come down to Florida. So I went to a junior college and started out. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I thought, well, my mom was a nurse. Maybe I'll try nursing. And over the Christmas break, I think I went, what am I doing? And I got into the theater program, and then because I'm a singer, I studied that as well. And then I ended up going to Florida State and got my BFA from there. And then started some graduate work up in New Jersey at Rutgers, but decided it was time for me to get out there and do it. Because by then I was older. I wasn't a kid anymore, so yeah.
Was that difficult once you made that decision?
I think probably making the decision is the hardest part, right? We're not sure what the world has to offer us, but once you make the jump, then it kind of comes to you. So once I started working, then you network and you get to know more people, and doors open, and you open your own doors as well. You just know more, and so yeah, and then work all over Florida, which is terrific.
Talk to us a little bit about the psychological and emotional aspect of being an actress, an actor, and the processes that you go through. Number one, to believe you are worthy, and that you're worthy enough to continue to reach for something that not only that you are good at, but that to make yourself continue to believe that you're good at. Can you talk about that?
That's a big one. I would say that's a real core thing. Certainly, I've had like parents approach me about their children, and I play a lot of moms now, probably grandmas now, but and say, "Does my kid have it?" You know, and I say to them, "The world will tell them soon enough." So we need to pursue what we want to pursue and what we love. And I have been so gifted with getting to do what I love to do. I think that makes a big difference. I love to do it. I still love to do it. I see some young people that I've worked with that can hardly wait to get out of the show and to go do whatever they're going to go do. And I think, I want to be here. And you know, when people are on their phones, like in the wings, and I'm thinking, no, I want to be here. This is what I'm here to do for these 2 hours or whatever it is. I want to be present for this event because it's gone like that. We work in a profession where it's over. It's not taped. It's not going to be seen again. It's not a film you can go revisit. It's over. So you better show up and do it. And I still feel that way every time I perform. So I think that has to do with it. Like I said, the world will tell you. If you continue to be cast, then you have to believe that you have something. And that feeds on itself.
But what do you do? I have, you know, there are actors that have come from here who are now up in New York trying to make it, unquote.
As they should.
And these are people who, some aren't, but some have a great deal of talent. I mean, they're not just up there for the heck of it. And they're not landing. What advice do you have for them? Because it's not that they're not talented, but up there, they're just not getting
right.
They
are a very small fish in a very large pond, and that was the choice I made. I had been living in New York. Was in an acting company. I was trying to do all that, but I was also temping, and I worked for a private investigator. All these different crazy jobs. But when I realized I could make a living in Florida and do this, that seemed to make sense to me, and I've had a career doing it.
When you say career, that's another thing. Down here again, because the directors, I've mentioned this before, have 2.5 weeks of rehearsal. They will often cast actors and actresses in roles that they know are in their proven range. And yet, most of these actors have a much larger range. And you, on the other hand, have in fact done comedy, have done drama, have done musicals, have done reviews. How do you think you've been managed to break that stereotypical
I don't know if that's
problem?
anything I had a hand in. I don't know if I did. I think I've proven myself, and so then it's easy for people to maybe take the next risk. But also I've worked with people over and over again, director-wise, so they begin to know more of what you can do. But I also, you put yourself out there. If you think it's a role for you, go and audition, whether you think you'll get it or not. And I've had to remind myself over and over again. Especially as I've gotten older, I've kind of gone, oh, I think I'm too old for that. And then I see the person they cast and I think, oh, why did I do that? I know that, and I've told other people, you don't make that decision, let them make that decision. You know, you go and you do your work and let them make that decision. So.
Well, you have so many different, as Bill mentioned, so many different talents.
Thank you.
So in a season, auditioning, do you run to try for, I know that a lot of people are calling you now, but beforehand, did you want to do musicals? Did you want to do straight plays?
I think I always want to do the thing that I'm not doing. So you're in a comedy and you think, oh, comedy is so hard. I just want to be in a drama. And then you're in a drama and you think, oh, I just want to make people laugh. And then you're in a musical and you think, oh, this is so hard. And you know, it's always that way. I think I prefer straight plays probably over musicals. I love to sing. I don't necessarily like to act and sing all the time. But please cast me. Don't take that, you know, as the wrong thing. I just love to do, like I said earlier, I love to do what we're doing, so I'll do it in any fashion, you know. And the more the challenge, the better.
How long did it take you to get known when you came
first
to
started?
South Florida?
I don't know. Karen and I were talking about this. I'm always just grateful for the next job. So I've never, ever felt that I can just hang out and hope it comes to me. I'd like, it would be wonderful, but that's just not the reality of our life. So you have to go and pursue
So you
it.
approached this as a business.
Yes.
And
It is a business.
Part of the business is auditioning. And I always wondered, one of the questions is, should an actor, would you advise an actor to audition all the time, even if it's something that they might not think that they're right for, as part of developing your craft or auditioning?
I always think auditioning is like test taking. It lets you know what you know. So if you go and put yourself out there and you feel good about that audition, you go, okay, what was that I felt good about? Because you don't always. Not every audition you're going to ace it. That's just how it is. That's just life. But I think it is a business and you are your product. So you train your product and you bring your best foot forward. So if that means you need to take some voice lessons and get your voice up to par, do it. You know, whatever you need. And
You have so much to teach.
well, thank you. And I've started to teach, which I'm finding very gratifying. I had not thought I had that in me, but
Where do you teach?
I teach at Lake Worth Playhouse and at Palm Beach Drama Works.
And that's a good segue for the question I have for you. What do you cover in your acting classes?
You can pretty much teach what you know, right? So I was brought up on Uta Hagen and Sandy Meisner, all of that. So mostly Uta Hagen work, because the classes are mostly with people that are just curious. There are some people that are wanting to pursue it, but mostly it's...
How old are your students?
I have a 16-year-old in one class, and I would say up into the latter 70s. So
In the same class?
Yep.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's wonderful to see that light go on when they get something and you go, oh, I said, so that's fun for me. So I really am just teaching what I know. Because I know there are days I go in to teach and I think, what am I going to tell them? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing on a regular basis. And yet you do know. You know, 38 years of experience tells you.
What would you tell actors, you know, who may be working somewhat or, you know, are kind of mid-career? You know, in New York, you know, there's classes everywhere, and everybody's, you know, usually studying. Here, that the opportunities seem to be less for that. So, what would you recommend to actors who want to keep training? Where should they go? Where should they look for this?
That is a good question, and I don't know if I know the answer. My class certainly is open to everybody, but I know that people that are at a certain level want to work with that level and higher. I understand that. So that is something we need to develop more here. I think it's a little bit different in the regions because if you're not working, you're busy making a living, right? In another way, whatever that may be to you. So the idea of having to also take class just seems like another thing. Or if you're working all the time, you think, well, why do I need to take a class? I'm working. But we all can improve. But I think that's really got to come from us wanting it.
Would we call it, this has come up before, would we call it master classes? You're talking about for people who are in the business and people who are working?
I think of master classes, though, as something that's short term.
Right.
You know, if you want to take a scene study class that lasts 10, 12 weeks, you know, where would someone who wants to work with a certain level of person and not just with beginners, where would they go?
Well, Theater League of South Florida has lists of classes on their website. And you know, and we know individually of some people in the area that, you know, provide classes. Like Burt Reynolds still does classes, Ken Kay, Beth Diamond, Michael Lead. So there, you know, there are people in the area, but I'm sure there's a whole list of people that we don't even know about. But I know that on the website of Theater League of South Florida, there are a list of classes, so you can go there.
But do you want to work with your peers, though? A working actor, if you know, should there be? That's why I called it a master class, just to give it some cachet. Would you work with just to work out, or would it be with? Would you be interested in even developing something like that?
I don't know if I would be, but that would take some energy. And I think it would be an interesting thing to do if it was in your community because you know each other so well. I don't know if you need somebody that has, like, I'm going to be in charge to do that, or if it would be an odd, I don't know. I don't know.
So
I think we could use it, though.
So one of the things that you've done that other people necessarily haven't is you've been involved in developing new work that no one has ever seen.
lot.
depending on when our audience is watching this, you are either in preparation or currently in performance, or you have finished this co-production of the Molly Goldberg
Ordinary Americans.
Ordinary Americans. Can you talk a little bit about that project, but also about the idea of working on a piece that no one's ever seen before?
Okay. It's my favorite thing to do. I think I've made a career of really new work. Thank you, Lou Tyrrell. Because when Florida Stage was going, it was all new work. And so I'm happy and very proud to say, even after all this time, to see my name in a published script as the first person that did that role is a thrill. And it still thrills me. And I remember being in school and looking at scripts and thinking, wow, who's that person that did the first thing? And Deb Lawfer, who's a playwright, I've been in many of Deb's plays, and I'm in her book, and it just, I can imagine somebody going, wow, who's this woman? She's in all these plays, you know, why is that?
Yes.
So I still am thrilled by that. But I like putting my stamp on it. And I would say, as any actor, you know, you do your research for a play that maybe has been done before, and you know, now you can watch a film or you can see YouTube or something, but you still want to put your stamp on it, what you bring to that particular role yourself. So to me, that's the joy of it, is just starting. But I don't really think I look at it any differently.
You're not intimidated?
No,
by,
not at all.
You know, I'm the first one out.
No, not at all. What a joy.
I was just going to say,
know,
it's a joy.
Yeah,
It's
to
like,
put,
yeah.
you know, me in there. Yeah. It's my favorite thing. But with Ordinary Americans, it's an extra joy because I wanted to develop something about Gertrude Berg for years. I just find her fascinating.
Is this just about Gertrude Berg or
No.
her character?
And Philip Loeb.
No, it's about her show, Philip Loeb and the Blacklist. Phil Loeb played her husband and was blacklisted, and subsequently the show went off the air. So.
And unusually, you know, you may be involved in a new work, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance, maybe you're reading a year earlier. You've been involved in this project since the very beginning.
Right.
How long has this particular one
Well,
been?
it kind of started a couple years ago. Palm Beach DramaWorks put me forward for a grant. It was, I think, a mature actress grant or something like that. And I had to, you know, so what do I want to do? And this is someone I've just been fascinated by her. She was the first woman to win an Emmy. She won a Tony. She did film. She did everything. She wrote all of her own scripts, all of them. And
Over
we're talking-
26 years.
Yeah. I mean, she started
Amazing.
on radio. She was next to Amos and Andy, you know, in how popular she was. The president said, you know, he didn't get us through the war, Gertrude Berg did, you know, or the Goldbergs did, the show did. So I was fascinated by her. And so I, you know, wrote this grant, and I didn't get the grant, but Bill Hayes at DramaWorks was so enamored of the idea. He said, I think we need to follow this up, and he commissioned a play. So fast forward, we've done readings, we've done workshops. We have another workshop coming up, and then we will go into rehearsal November 5th and open in December.
And be
You know,
done
then-
later
then at Gable Stage.
At Gable Stage,
right.
one of the first local co-productions
Right.
in a very
Right.
long time.
One of the things I find fascinating about Gertrude Berg is that she was so famous in her time,
And now.
and now nobody knows who she is.
That's one of the reasons I wanna
Meanwhile,
do
she was
something about
Lucille
her.
Ball before there was a Lucille
Yeah.
Ball, you know,
Right.
doing all her own producing. So how are you going about creating her character? And there's a little bit you can watch, you know, I know of the TV show. You know, are you trying to actually sort of recreate her rhythms, her sounds? How are you developing her?
That's a joy for me, that part, because there is that wonderful documentary, You Who, Mrs. Berg, or Mrs.
When you
Goldberg,
find
yeah.
out that she wasn't that lady who sat at
Oh,
the window,
not
and
at all.
extraordinarily intelligent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was cultured and very bright, and so you get to have that wonderful cadence, and the playwright has really tapped into that. He watched a lot of the old shows, so I get to do that, and then you get to break from that and then be her. And that's probably going to be the more difficult thing, is because we don't know that much, we don't see that much of that, of her. There's the Edward R. Murrow interview with her where you get to see her, and she's like just elegant.
You
know?
don't know it's the
Yeah,
same.
But it's
right,
also
right.
well put on, I think, too.
I think extra.
Because I did a
extra.
Gertrude Berg show as well,
Okay.
so you know I
Yeah,
did
I
a
think
lot
you're
of
right,
research for
right.
that. It was
Yeah, 'cause,
very
I mean, she
interesting.
was a
and there's
girl
very little
from-
written about her. That's the other thing about you know there was no biography that I think showed her true. So how are you finding the non-Mrs. Goldberg person?
Right. That's going to be my job. That's going to be my challenge in the next weeks, to find that. And to tell the story we're telling, because we're telling a larger story than just her. We're telling the story of the blacklist and what happened, you know, to the people that it
So
affected.
would you say that you've reached your bucket list with this role, or do you have something else that you would like to do? Because it seems like after her, it would be Golden Meyer.
Okay, I'll try that. That would be good. Yeah, this is pretty exciting. I suppose I always wanted to do something about Emma Goldman too. So I thought about that once.
Please.
But and probably the play that got away was Come Back, Little Sheba. That was always my want to do, and I think now I'm too old.
So one of the performances I will never forget of yours was Souvenir.
Thank you.
And was DramaWorks that
Yeah,
did that?
that was DramaWorks,
It's been
huh?
so long. But it was the story of Florence
Foster Jenkins.
Foster Jenkins, and you sang terribly off key and everything else for like an hour, and only at the end did you get to show your beautiful voice. And I remember your husband saying to me, "You have no idea what it was like listening to her rehearsing for
That's
weeks."
right. I remember that.
How hard was it to sit there and sing badly?
The challenge was because as a singer, you are used to tuning yourself, right? You have to listen to yourself and make sure. So you spend a whole lifetime trying to tune yourself. And then here comes this thing, and so you have to sing off key. And it's fun, right? It's just fun, the challenges. But what I found, and then the director found, and we found it funny, is that as soon as you added movement, I started to sing on pitch because I was thinking about the movement, because movement is not my thing. So I had to work extra, hard at that. The joy, though, was to see the audience react. The first time I sang off key, I remember in DramaWorks, it was in their old space. This woman was as close as you and I, and she was watching, and then all of a sudden I started singing. She went, and looked at her friend. And another time I did it up at Riverside Theater as well, and a woman left at intermission and said she wanted her money back because I couldn't sing.
Wow. That's awesome.
But at the same time, at the very end, you have to sing the Ave Maria, and you have to sing it well, and people thought it was a recording. So I guess my job was done. If they thought I was so bad I couldn't sing, so that's.
I just thought something that maybe you might consider doing a one-woman show about Shirley Booth. But
Oh gosh, because she's my idol.
really?
She truly
It's
is
so
my
funny.
idol.
It just occurred to me sitting here, like you would be perfect for
thank
that.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So what do you consider your strongest characteristic as
an actor?
As an actor.
I was told this once, and I hope it's true, that I listen well. And that's what I teach my students, is that acting is listening and responding within the given circumstances. That's what I say. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's listening and responding.
Yeah. Very, very important.
Yeah.
And another question is, when you're not working, what do you do? What do you do to fill that,
Well, currently, this is kind of exciting thing that I'm trying. I've been a hospice volunteer for many years, and now I'm taking a class right now on end-of-life doula work.
Oh my goodness.
So to become a doula for people in their end of life. So that's
Explain exactly what that is.
Okay, it would be, I'm still learning really, but it would be the emotional support for someone that is nearing their end of life. So a family could bring you in, and you would be with the patient as well as the family to help them through that, because it's clear to me that we all are going to die someday, so we might as well face that and make our life the best it can be until the end of it. So, and that is part of my listening, I think, listening to people.
Doula is usually with
the childbirth.
Yeah, so what does doula mean? I wonder.
I actually should know that. It really does have
Is
to
it
do
Latin
with
or Spanish?
birthing. I don't know. But this is a new phase of it. So many actually end-of-life doulas have been birthing doulas.
That's amazing. Good for you. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask one last question before we go. What is your deepest heart desire? And it doesn't
I think she
necessarily-
silenced me.
And it doesn't necessarily have to do with your craft.
Right.
Just, you know, what does Beth, you know?
To let people know that they are worthy. That we're all worthy, I think. And to give that love to others. That's what we're here for. I really do believe it.
Given it today. You're
Well,
very
thank you.
special.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Special lady.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm blushing probably, don't you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. In a perfect world, what would that look like?
Oh, that we'd all have mutual respect for each other, and based on love. Yeah, yeah, in a perfect world.
Okay, so if there were one star you could work with, who would it be?
Judy Dench.
There you go.
Come on. I'd do anything for her.
Well, as usual, our time has run out before the conversation, but what a great conversation.
Thank you. It was a joy.
I want to thank our panelists for volunteering their time and expertise. And I want to thank Elizabeth Beth Dimon for being here today and inspiring us with her great insight. Thank you, Beth. We love you. And we want to hear from you. Please take the time to send us an email and let us know what you think. That email address is spotlightonthearts@browartschools.com. And check out floridatheateronstage.com for information and reviews of shows and a calendar of upcoming shows. And all of the past episodes of Spotlight on the Arts can be seen on YouTube. So you can just go to YouTube, do a search for Spotlight on the Arts. Look for the picture of Miss Iris Acker, the creator of this show. And as Iris would always say, go to the theater.